We're now going to take a look at our main.xml layout file, which is the primary layout for the Flag Quiz Game app. And one of the things that you'll notice is that in the time since I recorded the previous couple of lessons, Google has released an updated version of the graphical user interface design tool. So a couple of things that you'll notice as changes here. First of all, we now have an option for the Nexus S phone, which is Google's primary phone, and that is also our testing device. So we've selected that for the purpose of the design here. And also the palette has changed in that instead of just giving you the names of the GUI controls that you're working with, you can now see previews of what each control actually looks like. So for example, here's a button and a radio button and a checkbox, etc. So as before, you can still drag and drop these onto the user interface. In this example, we have a vertical linear layout. You can see our main layout in the outline is a linear layout, and we've set its orientation so that it is a vertical orientation. You can actually see that up at the top here with these buttons that allow you to switch between horizontal and vertical orientation respectively when you're dealing with a linear layout. Now when you select items within your layout, you get some additional new options in this button bar here. First, we have the ability to set the margins on the currently selected element or elements. We have the ability to change the gravity values for those elements, the ability to distribute weights of multiple selected elements evenly, and finally the ability to set the layout weight on a given item or selected set of items. We also have a variety of ways to view what's showing in the design area. We can say emulate real size, in which case you can see that it's gone and changed the size of the layout on the screen here to match presumably about the size of my actual device. Personally, I don't like that view. I like to be able to see what I'm looking at. I tend to use the zoom to fit view so I can see the whole layout at once, or zoom in even further if I need to work more precisely. Now let's take a look at first of all our list of items that are in this layout. We have the title text view at the top. That's what's currently selected, the 10-question flag quiz. We have a question number text view, which will appear here, and it's currently empty because we display the question number dynamically throughout the quiz. We have a flag image view. Again, it's currently empty because we'll display the flags dynamically throughout the quiz. The country text view, which is just displaying the text, guess the country, and of course these hard-coded strings that you see here are not really hard-coded, they're actually string resources defined in the strings.xml file. Now below that we have a table layout, which is where we'll display the buttons for guessing the answer, and you can see we have 3 rows within that table, rows 0, 1, and 2, and we will dynamically generate the buttons that get placed into those rows. By default, only one of those rows will be displayed, but remember the user has the option of selecting from displaying 3, 6, or 9 answers at once to make the quiz more difficult. And then finally at the bottom we have the answer text view, which is where we will display the incorrect string or the name of the country with an exclamation point indicating whether you got the current guess incorrect or correct respectively. Now if you take a look at the main.xml, you'll see that there's a few new features that we've used in here and a couple of things that we just want to point out in general. So here's our linear layout, the main element within this XML, and you'll notice again that it's got a vertical orientation. We've also set a background color on this particular layout, and it's a color resource defined in the colors.xml file. We have our title text view next, and for the title text view we've gone ahead and set the string quiz title. We've specified the size of it, its text color, and its gravity. We also gave it a margin of 10 dp at the bottom of the element to separate it from the next element on the screen. For the question number text view, which again is going to be displayed in terms of its content dynamically, we set its text color and its dimension and also its gravity as well. Next we have the flag image view, And you can see here that we've set the property adjust view bounds to false, and what this does is it allows us to manually determine the size of the image as that will be displayed at runtime. And the reason we did this in this example is because some of the flag images that we have that we downloaded from online are different sizes, and we actually wanted to display them all at the exact same size. So by setting adjust view bounds to false, we're able to control the exact width and height of that image. You also can see that we've defined that width and height as dimensions or dimension resources in the dimen.xml file. Next, we have our guest country text view, and again we've specified a string resource for the text, a color, and a dimension, or a text size, excuse me, as a dimension. Then we have our table layout. And within the table layout, you can see the 3 different table rows here. And the table has a couple of interesting properties assigned to it. Its layout weight is set to 1, whereas none of the other elements have a layout weight actually set. Now, by giving the table layout the weight 1, we're saying this element is the most important element with respect to all the other ones because they all have their default values of 0. And what that means is that the table layout will expand basically to fill any remaining space between the elements at the top of the layout and the text view at the bottom of the layout. Now within that table layout, we're also saying that the columns 0, 1, and 2 should be stretched, which allows those buttons that we display in those rows to completely fill the width that's available within that table. And then finally, we have our answer text view at the bottom. And again, we've done things like set the dimension size as a dimension resource, answer size we call it, to specify the text size so that we can change those values without having to change our source code just by going to the dimen.xml file.